Before you step into a new week, I want you to consider this. How do you want that week to unfold? Most people don't think about it. They just let the week come at them. They wake up Monday morning and whatever happens, happens. No plan, no preparation, no strategy. And then they wonder why things don't go their way. So here's the key. Don't let the week control you. You control the week. Now ask yourself, have you ever noticed how different you feel when you're prepared? When you've taken a little time to think things through before jumping into them? Isn't it amazing how much smoother things go when you know what you want and how you're going to get it? That's what we're talking about today. Setting the stage for success before the week even begins. You see, success doesn't happen by accident. It's something you design. It's something you plan. And the best way to start is by setting aside some time. Because if you can take a little bit of time to think through what you want to achieve, it's going to make all the difference in how you feel and how you perform throughout the week. Now, the first thing I want you to do before you start your week is get clear. Clarity is power. A lot of people go into the week with vague goals. No real sense of what's important or what they need to focus on. And what happens? They get lost in the weeds. They spend time on things that don't really matter, and the important stuff gets pushed aside. So I'm telling you right now, you've got to take a moment and get clear. Ask yourself, what are the most important things I need to get done this week? What are the key tasks that, if accomplished, will move me closer to my goals? It doesn't have to be a long list. In fact, I recommend keeping it short. Focus on just a few things that are going to make a real difference. That's where your energy needs to go. Not scattered across 100 little things, but laser focused on the handful of tasks that matter. Here's what I learned a long time ago. It's the 80-20 rule. You've probably heard of it. It's the idea that 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. Think about that. A small percentage of the things you do are going to give you the majority of your results. But the problem is, most people spend their time on the 80% of things that only produce 20% of the results. They're busy, but they're not productive. Do you see the difference? That's why it's so important to get clear on what really matters. What are those high-value activities that are going to give you the biggest return? That's where you want to spend your time. And here's something else to keep in mind. You don't have unlimited energy. You've got to be smart about where you focus that energy. If you waste it on things that don't really matter, you're not going to have much left for the things that do. So, after you've gotten clear on your priorities, the next step is to get organized. You know, one of the most frustrating things in life is feeling overwhelmed. Feeling like there's too much to do and not enough time to do it. And the reason most people feel this way is because they don't take the time to get organized. They let tasks pile up. They lose track of what needs to be done. And before they know it, they're buried under a mountain of unfinished work. But here's the good news. It doesn't have to be that way. If you can take just a little time before the week begins and organize your tasks to break them down into manageable steps, you're going to feel a whole lot better. You'll have a clear path to follow, and that sense of overwhelm will start to disappear. Now, when I say get organized, I'm not talking about making some fancy color-coded schedule or spending hours sorting through paperwork. I'm talking about something simple. Grab a piece of paper and make a list. Write down the tasks that need to be done and then prioritize them. What needs to be done first? What can wait? What's urgent? What's important? Most of us spend our time on urgent things, things that demand our immediate attention. But often, those aren't the things that really matter in the long run. The important things, the things that will move the needle on your goals, tend to get pushed aside because they're not screaming for your attention. So, you got to make time for those important tasks. You got to schedule them in. Otherwise, they'll never get done. Schedule your time. If you don't schedule your time, someone else will. If you don't tell your day where to go, it'll go wherever it pleases. And I'm telling you, that's not the way to live. I once heard someone say, "Show me your calendar and I'll show you your priorities." Isn't that interesting? If you want to know what someone really values, just look at how they spend their time. So here's what I want you to do. Before the week begins, sit down and schedule your most important tasks. Block out time for them. And when I say block out time, I mean actually write it down. Put it on your calendar. Treat it like an appointment with yourself. Because if you don't, it won't happen. Life will get in the way. You'll get distracted. You'll get pulled into other people's agendas. And before you know it, the week will be over and you'll be wondering where all the time went. Don't just schedule your work. Schedule time for yourself, too. Schedule time for your health, for your relationships, for your personal growth. Because I'm telling you, if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be much good to anyone else. You've got to make sure you're staying healthy, physically, mentally, emotionally. That means setting aside time to exercise, to relax, to read, to connect with the people who matter most to you. And here's another thing. When you're scheduling your week, make sure you leave some margin. What do I mean by margin? I mean time that's unaccounted for, time that's flexible. Because let's face it, things don't always go according to plan. There are going to be interruptions. There are going to be unexpected challenges. And if your schedule is packed from morning to night with no room for flexibility, what happens when something unexpected comes up? You get stressed. You get frustrated. You feel like everything's falling apart. But if you leave some margin, if you build in some flexibility, you'll be able to handle those unexpected challenges with grace. You'll be able to adjust without feeling like your whole week is derailed. So, don't be afraid to leave a little breathing room in your schedule. It's going to make a big difference. Now, after you've gotten clear on your priorities, organized your tasks, and scheduled your time, there's one more thing you need to do before you begin your week. You need to get your mindset right. I'm telling you, your attitude is going to determine how your week goes. If you go into the week with a negative mindset, thinking about all the problems, all the things that could go wrong, guess what? You're going to find those problems. You're going to attract those challenges. But if you go into the week with a positive mindset, expecting things to go well, looking for opportunities instead of obstacles, you're going to have a much better experience. I'm not talking about blind optimism here. I'm not saying you should ignore reality or pretend that challenges don't exist. What I'm saying is you've got to train yourself to focus on the good. You've got to train yourself to see the possibilities. Because what you focus on expands. If you focus on problems, you're going to get more problems. If you focus on solutions, you're going to find solutions. One of the best ways to get your mindset right is to start the week with gratitude. Take a moment before the week begins to reflect on the things you're grateful for. Write them down if you can, because gratitude is a powerful thing. When you're in a state of gratitude, it's hard to feel stressed. It's hard to feel overwhelmed. Gratitude puts things in perspective. It reminds you that no matter what challenges you're facing, there's always something to be thankful for. And I'm telling you, when you start the week with that sense of gratitude, with a positive mindset, you're going to approach everything differently. You're going to be more resourceful, more resilient, more creative. You're going to be better equipped to handle whatever comes your way. Before you begin your week, here's what you need to do. First, get clear on your priorities. Identify the key tasks that are going to move you forward. Second, get organized. Break those tasks down into manageable steps and prioritize them. Third, schedule your time. Block out time for your most important tasks, and don't forget to schedule time for yourself. Fourth, leave some margin. Build flexibility into your schedule so you can handle the unexpected. And finally, get your mindset right. Start the week with gratitude and a positive attitude and watch how things start to change. I'm telling you, if you do this, if you take the time to prepare before the week begins, you're going to feel more in control, more focused, and more productive. You're going to be able to handle challenges with confidence, and you're going to make real progress on your goals. And isn't that what we all want? Progress. Success isn't about doing everything perfectly. It's about making progress, step by step, week by week. So take the time to prepare and watch how your life begins to change. I'll tell you what changed my whole life. I finally discovered that it's all risky. The minute you were born, it got risky. If you think trying is risky, wait until they hand you the bill for not trying. Life itself is risky. Every single choice we make, every action we take, carries with it some element of uncertainty. Now, the question isn't whether or not we should take risks, because that's not really a choice we have. The question is, which risks are worth taking? Everything in life has a price. There's no free ride, no safe option where you get all the reward and none of the risk. Some people think they're playing it safe by sticking to the familiar, by holding back, by avoiding risks. But what they don't realize is that playing it safe is the riskiest thing you can do. Why? Because while you're standing still, the world keeps moving. Opportunities slip away, time ticks on, and before you know it, the cost of staying where you are becomes higher than the cost of trying something new. Tell me, how many opportunities have you let pass by because you were afraid of the risk? Think about that for a moment. Maybe it was a new business venture, a career change, an investment, or even a relationship. You weighed the risks, thought about all the things that could go wrong, and decided it's just too risky. But what we often forget is that there's a risk in doing nothing, too. People tend to focus on the risk of failure. They say, what if I lose? What if I make a mistake? What if things don't work out? But they forget to ask, what if I succeed? What if this is the opportunity that changes my life? What if this is the risk worth taking? They focus on the downside and completely ignore the upside. And that's where most people get stuck, too focused on avoiding loss to ever go after gain. Think about it. How many times have you heard stories about people who missed their shot because they were too afraid to take a risk? It happens all the time. People wait for the perfect moment, the perfect conditions, when the truth is, there's no such thing. Life doesn't wait for you to feel ready. The opportunities come and go, and the ones who are willing to embrace the risk are the ones who get the reward. But I get it. Risk can be intimidating. I'm not telling you to dive in blindly, because that's not smart either. There's a difference between calculated risk and reckless risk. The smart way to approach life's risks is to prepare yourself, to educate yourself, to do your homework so you can take those risks from a place of strength and understanding. And that's something Mr. Schoaf taught me early on. Don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better. In other words, don't ask for the risks to go away. Ask for the wisdom and skill to handle them. The people who succeed are not the ones who avoid risk. No, they're the ones who are willing to take it on because they know they've done the work to prepare themselves. They know they've equipped themselves with the tools and the knowledge to make the best possible decisions, even in uncertain situations. And that's the key. You can't control the risk, but you can control how ready you are to face it. I remember when I first got started in business. Now, I didn't know much about business at the time, but I knew I had to try. And sure enough, I took some hits. I made mistakes. But each of those mistakes was a lesson. I didn't see them as failures. I saw them as tuition, the price I paid for learning. And that's something I want you to remember. Every risk you take teaches you something, even if it doesn't work out the way you planned. In fact, the risks that don't work out often teach you the most valuable lessons. But the key is, you have to be willing to take that step. You have to be willing to put yourself in the game. And then there's the risk of regret. Most people don't think about it until it's too late. See, we tend to focus on the risk of failure. But what about the risk of looking back and saying, I could have done more? What about the risk of waking up one day and realizing that you've spent your life playing it safe, and because of that, you've missed out on the best parts of life? That's a real risk, and it's a heavy one. Regret is a powerful thing. It weighs on you. It sticks with you. And unlike most risks, which come with the chance to recover or to try again, regret is permanent. Once an opportunity passes, it's gone. You don't get a second shot at the moments you let slip away. And that's something I want you to think about as you go through life. Are you more afraid of failing, or are you more afraid of regretting never having tried? I've met a lot of people over the years who were incredibly talented, intelligent, capable individuals, but they let their fear of risk hold them back. They could have built something amazing, but they didn't. They played small. They played it safe. And when I'd ask them why, they'd say, well, Jim, I didn't want to take the risk. But what they didn't realize was that they were taking a risk the whole time. The risk of never knowing what could have been. And I hear it all the time. It's just not the right time. There's too much uncertainty in the world right now. But I'm telling you, there's always going to be uncertainty. That's life. There's never a perfect time. There's never a guarantee. And if you wait for everything to line up perfectly before you make your move, you'll be waiting forever. The people who succeed don't wait for certainty. They move forward despite uncertainty. They understand that waiting for the perfect moment is the surest way to miss out. And keep this in mind. The world is changing, whether you like it or not. Everything is in motion. Technology is advancing, industries are evolving, and the way we live and work is constantly shifting. Now, you can choose to stand still and avoid the risk of change, but I'm telling you, that's the biggest risk of all. Because while you're standing still, the world is moving ahead, and pretty soon, you'll find yourself left behind. Look at the people who built empires from nothing. People like Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Andrew Carnegie. These were risk takers. They weren't afraid to fail. They weren't afraid to put themselves out there and take a shot at something bigger than themselves. And sure, they experienced setbacks, they experienced failure, but that didn't stop them. They understood that failure is a part of the process, that you don't get the reward without the risk. Henry Ford said, "Failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently." And that's exactly the attitude you need to have when it comes to taking risks. Don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of the bumps in the road. Those bumps are there to teach you, to refine you, to make you better the next time around. Tell me, what's the worst that could happen if you take a risk? Really think about it. Most of the time, the worst case scenario isn't as bad as we make it out to be in our minds. We build up this fear, this anxiety about what might go wrong, and it stops us in our tracks. But if you take a step back and really look at it, you'll often find that the fear is exaggerated. Sure, things might not go exactly as planned, but that's life. The key is to understand that you can recover from almost anything. You can rebuild. You can learn and try again. But if you never take that first step, you'll never know what's possible. Here's what I want you to do. Shift your mindset about risk. Don't see it as something to avoid. See it as something to embrace. Understand that it's a natural part of the process. Instead of asking, what if I fail? Ask yourself, what if I succeed? Instead of focusing on what could go wrong, focus on what could go right. Instead of waiting for the perfect moment, create the moment. You must be willing to take a chance on yourself. It's about time. And in particular, the time we've been conditioned to take for granted. I'm talking about the weekend. Now, what's the common idea about weekends? Most people are waiting for them to arrive so they can shut off. Shut down, unplug, escape. They spend the entire week just grinding, looking forward to those precious 2 days of relaxation. And don't get me wrong, rest is important. But ask yourself, is that what separates the top 1% from the other 99%? Is that what builds success? Is that the key to living an extraordinary life? No, it's not. The weekend is a hidden treasure chest of opportunity. It's that extra slice of time that you can use to leap ahead while everyone else is coasting. Think about it. When are your competitors taking it easy? It's usually on the weekend. And that's exactly why the weekend is for outworking the competition. I want you to imagine two people, person A and person B. Now, person A works hard Monday through Friday. They put in their hours, they give it their best effort, and they do everything that's asked of them. But come Friday evening, they switch off. They put their feet up, maybe have a drink, watch TV, go out with friends, spend the weekend doing anything but thinking about their goals. Person B also works hard Monday through Friday, but they understand something. They understand that while everyone else is relaxing, there's an open window to get ahead. So they use their weekend differently. They don't spend all of it working. No, that's not what I'm saying. They take some time to rest, sure. But they also carve out hours for reading, learning, working on their side projects, planning, and sharpening their skills. Maybe they're not putting in a full day of work on Saturday, but they're certainly putting in the effort to keep moving forward. Now, fast forward a year. Which of those two people do you think will be further ahead? It's obvious, right? Person B. And it's not because they're necessarily smarter or more talented. It's because they leverage the time that most people waste. They understood the power of the weekend. And that's the key here. If you want to be extraordinary, if you want to build something that lasts, something meaningful, you have to be willing to do what the ordinary won't do. And that starts with recognizing that the weekend is not a time to coast. The weekend is for outworking the competition. So what does that really look like? Now, I'm not saying you should work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm not saying you should burn yourself out. There's a balance here. But what I'm saying is this. There's a mindset shift that needs to happen. Most people think the weekend is a reward for working hard during the week. But the top performers, they see the weekend as the foundation for the next week. They use it to gain momentum. Momentum is one of the most powerful forces in life. Once you've got it, it's easier to keep it going. But when you lose it, it takes a tremendous amount of energy to get it back. So, if you spend Monday to Friday building momentum, why would you want to lose it over the weekend? If you take 2 or 3 days off every single week, that's like hitting the reset button over and over. You're starting from scratch every Monday morning. Instead of building on what you did the previous week, you're rebuilding. The greats, the ones who truly excel, don't let that happen. They keep the momentum going, even on the weekend. They know that success doesn't care what day of the week it is. You spend just 2 hours each day on the weekend working on your goals, or even working on a project you're passionate about. 2 hours on Saturday, 2 hours on Sunday. That's 4 extra hours each week. Multiply that by 52 weeks in a year, and you've got an extra 208 hours. That's more than 5 full work weeks of extra effort. Now, do you think someone who's putting in 5 extra work weeks a year might have a slight edge over their competition? You bet they do. That's the power of consistent effort. And that's what separates the average from the exceptional. It's not about doing a lot in a short burst of time. It's about doing a little bit more consistently over the long term. You see, success is not a big thing. It's a bunch of little things done well, day after day, week after week. So when you think about the weekend, I want you to start thinking about it differently. Don't see it as time to escape. See it as time to invest. Time to invest in your future. Because here's the truth. While everyone else is resting, while everyone else is taking it easy, you have the opportunity to put in the work that will set you apart. I've always believed in the philosophy that you should work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And the weekend is the perfect time to do that. Maybe during the week, you're busy with your career, your job, your responsibilities. But the weekend, that's when you can focus on yourself. That's when you can read the books, listen to the seminars, write down your goals, and plan out your vision. Think about it. What would happen if you spent your weekends improving yourself by just 1% every week? Just 1%. It sounds small, but over time, that compounds. Over a year, that's a 52% improvement. And that's huge. That's life-changing. But it doesn't happen by accident. It happens by choice. It happens when you decide that the weekend is for outworking the competition. And most people will say, don't I need time to rest? Don't I need time to enjoy myself? Absolutely you do. But I'm telling you, the joy you get from spending time working on your dreams, from seeing progress, from feeling like you're moving forward, that joy is different from the temporary pleasure you get from sitting on the couch and doing nothing. There's nothing wrong with taking a break. But here's what you need to remember. Life rewards effort. Life rewards those who are willing to put in the work when no one else is watching. You've got to fall in love with the process. You've got to fall in love with the grind. And that's especially true on the weekend. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. And that bridge is built day by day, week by week. But the challenge is, most people don't want to build it on the weekends. Most people think discipline is something you apply Monday through Friday. But discipline doesn't take days off. Discipline doesn't care if it's Saturday or Sunday. It's there, ready for you to pick it up and use it. And here's something else. The weekend is also a great time to get creative. You know, sometimes during the week, we get caught up in the routine. We get so busy doing what we need to do that we don't have time to think creatively, to explore new ideas, to dream big. The weekend is perfect for that. When your mind is a little more relaxed, when you're not as rushed, that's when you can start to think outside the box. That's when you can brainstorm, come up with new strategies, and start thinking about how you're going to take things to the next level. I want you to see the weekend as your laboratory. It's your time to experiment. Try new things. See what works. See what doesn't. Use that time to test out new ideas, new approaches, new habits. Because that's how you grow. That's how you evolve. And that's how you stay ahead of the competition. Now, when I say the weekend is for outworking the competition, I don't just mean the people around you. Sure, there are always going to be people who are working hard, and you want to stay ahead of them. But the real competition, the most important competition, is with yourself. It's about being better today than you were yesterday. It's about improving just a little bit every single day, every single weekend. And here's the truth. You don't have to be the best in the world on day one. You don't even have to be the best on day 100. You just have to be willing to keep getting better. Weekends are your opportunity to do that. While everyone else is staying the same, you're improving. While everyone else is coasting, you're moving forward. And over time, that difference adds up. It's like compound interest. Small improvements over a long period of time lead to massive results. Mr. Shove taught me something that changed the way I looked at time and effort. He said, success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Think about that. Simple disciplines practiced every day. Not just Monday through Friday. Not just when you feel like it. Every day, including the weekends. That's why the weekend is so important. It's a time to practice discipline. It's a time to reinforce the habits that will lead you to success. It's a time to put in the work that others aren't willing to do. Attitude is everything, isn't it? It's not just something that colors your day. It's the determining factor in how high or low you'll go in life. Your attitude is like the set of a sail. When the wind changes, the same wind blows on us all. The difference in where you end up isn't the wind, but how you've set your sail. And that sail, my friends, is your attitude. That's a life-changing thought. Think about it. The winds of difficulty, the winds of opportunity, the winds of failure. Everyone faces them. But what makes one man thrive and another struggle? It's the way each man thinks, feels, and acts in response to those winds. We don't control the wind. We can't stop economic downturns, personal losses, or unexpected circumstances from blowing through our lives. But what we do control is how we adjust. How you respond to the challenges is what makes all the difference. That's attitude. And your attitude will determine how high you fly or how low you fall. Someone once said, the same boiling water that softens the potato hardens the egg. The situation isn't what matters. It's the character you bring to it that decides the outcome. I used to think success was about talent. I thought the people at the top had some special gifts that the rest of us missed. But over time, I learned something. Talent will get you in the door, but it's your attitude that will keep you in the room. If you've got a lousy attitude, it doesn't matter how skilled you are. You won't go far. On the other hand, if you've got a positive, growth-oriented attitude, you can develop the skills you need along the way. Life isn't fair, but attitude makes the playing field a lot more even. Have you ever met someone who's good at what they do, but nobody can stand working with them? They're negative. They're a drain. They complain about everything. You don't need too many of those people in your life, do you? And if you've got that attitude, you've got to ask yourself, how much is that costing me? Some people don't realize it, but their attitude is like a price tag that hangs around their neck. It tells the world what they're worth, and the world responds accordingly. The good news is you get to choose that price every day. Now, here's the thing about attitude. It's not something you inherit, and it's not something someone gives you. It's a choice, and you have to make that choice every single day. That's the deal. You can't just say, well, I'll have a good attitude today, and it'll carry me through the month. No. You've got to get up every day, face the world, and decide, what kind of person am I going to be today? What kind of thoughts am I going to allow into my mind? Because your thoughts become your attitude. and your attitude becomes your behavior. And your behavior determines where you'll end up. Do you know people who wake up every morning already defeated? They hit the alarm clock and say, well, here we go again. Another day, another dollar. They're not just losing the battle for success. They're losing before they even start. Their attitude has already put them at the bottom of the hill. And now they've got to spend the whole day climbing. But someone else wakes up and says, today's a new day. I don't know what's coming, but I'm going to give it everything I've got. That person is starting the day on top of the hill, and every step forward is a bonus. The difference? It's not circumstances, it's attitude. Here's a truth I learned the hard way. Your attitude doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone around you. In a business, if the leader has a poor attitude, it trickles down through the whole organization. Have you ever walked into a company and you could just feel the negativity in the air? The employees aren't motivated. Customers feel unwelcome. It's like a cloud hangs over the place. And most times that starts at the top. But I've also seen companies where the leadership has an incredible attitude, one of energy, enthusiasm, and respect. And it filters down to everyone. You walk in and you feel the difference immediately. People smile, they're helpful, they want to be there. That's the power of attitude. It's contagious. So the question is, what kind of attitude are you spreading? Attitude also determines how you handle failure. And I'm telling you, if you're in the game of life, failure is going to come. Nobody wins all the time. But the key isn't in avoiding failure, it's in learning how to respond to it. Some people hit a wall and they stay there. They say, well, I guess this just wasn't meant to be. And they give up. But others hit the same wall. And instead of saying, this is the end, they say, all right, what's the lesson here? What can I learn? That's the winning attitude. They dust themselves off. They figure out what went wrong, and they try again and again and again if necessary. Success doesn't come from never failing. It comes from never giving up. Mr. Shoaff said, if you want to change your life, start with your attitude. At the time, I didn't really get it. I thought, what do my thoughts have to do with my circumstances? But he explained it to me. He said, your circumstances are just the scorecard. Your attitude is what drives the game. You can't wait for things to change on the outside before you change on the inside. It doesn't work that way. If you want things to improve, it starts with how you think, how you speak, and how you act, regardless of your current situation. That's attitude. Here's another thing. A positive attitude isn't just about being cheerful all the time. It's not about pretending everything is perfect when it isn't. A positive attitude means facing reality, but not giving up hope. It's about seeing the problems, but also seeing the possibilities. It's about saying, this is hard, but it's not impossible. I've got what it takes to figure this out. That's the kind of attitude that separates winners from losers. And that's the kind of attitude that takes you places. Tell me, what do you tell yourself when things go wrong? Do you blame other people? Do you say, it's not my fault? Or do you say, what could I have done differently? The way you answer those questions reveals your attitude. And here's the truth. People with a winning attitude take responsibility. They own their mistakes. They know that blaming others doesn't solve anything. So they look inward. They learn. And because of that, they grow. Another thing about attitude, your attitude toward others matters just as much as your attitude toward yourself. Have you ever noticed how some people treat others like they're unimportant, like they're obstacles in the way? That's a losing attitude. People with a right attitude know that relationships are the real currency in life. They treat people with respect, with kindness, and with gratitude. And because of that, opportunities find them. People want to work with them, help them, promote them. Why? Because they've got the kind of attitude that attracts good things. I don't know where you are in life right now. Maybe you're on top of the world and things are going great. Or maybe you're at the bottom and everything feels like a struggle. Wherever you are, I want you to remember this. Your attitude will determine what happens next. Not your situation, not your resources, not even your talent. Your attitude. It's the one thing you can control, no matter what's going on around you. And when you take control of it, when you decide to have a winning attitude, everything else begins to change. Maybe not all at once, but bit by bit, things start to shift in your favor. So here's my challenge to you. Start paying attention to your attitude. Catch yourself when you start thinking negative thoughts. Replace them with thoughts of possibility. When you feel yourself getting frustrated, take a step back and ask, what's the opportunity here? And when you interact with others, do it with kindness and respect. Because attitude isn't just about getting ahead. It's about how you live, how you contribute, and how you make others feel along the way. And if you do that, if you consistently choose a positive, empowering attitude, there's no limit to how high you can fly. And that's the thing, isn't it? The sky isn't the limit. Your attitude is.